A forceful condemnation of Russia from the White House today, saying Russia will not, quote, dictate the security assistance that we provide to Ukraine. The comments are a response to Russian threats to the United States after CNN and other outlets reported that the U.S. is finalizing plans to send the Patriot missile defense system to Ukraine. Today, a top Ukrainian military official said that Russia has launched 41 missile attacks plus 32 drone attacks in just the last week. CNN senior international correspondent Will Ripley is in Ukraine tonight with more.
Anderson, even before an official White House announcement on Patriot missile defense systems coming to Ukraine, the Russians, whether it be the embassy in D.C. or the Kremlin, are already quickly responding, saying the embassy saying that there would be unpredictable consequences if the Patriots were to arrive on the ground in Ukraine. The Kremlin saying that they would become legitimate targets, although it's unknown whether they'd actually be able to find them or hit them. What the Ukrainians have been saying for months or even years now is that they need these weapon systems as of late to defend against the constant Russian bombardment of the civilian power infrastructure that is designed to inflict suffering on millions of people across Ukraine who are living in the dark and the cold right now. Certainly that is the situation for those who remain in Kherson on the front line to the south. That city, which was occupied by the Russian, is now a target of a constant onslaught of shelling that has not only killed people and destroyed much of an administrative building, but has also, disconnected that city from its power grid. Now, in Donetsk to the east, there's also been very fierce fighting. The Russians trying to take back the city of Bakhmut, and the Ukrainians firing dozens of rockets at Russian-held territory. The Russians describe it as the worst attack on Donetsk since 2014. Some 8 years. Now, CNN can't independently verify all the claims of Russian-backed authorities, but social media videos have emerged showing buildings on fire. The Russians claim a cathedral was hit. They say both commercial and residential buildings were hit. There was even a major intersection that was set ablaze. In The Economist, Ukrainian officials are signaling that they think the Russians could be preparing a major attack on the capital, Kyiv, sometime early next year. Now, this comes with the caveat that the Russians and Ukrainians have both deliberately used information for their advantage and sometimes misinformation deliberately put out there to try to throw off the other side. But that said, the head of Ukraine's armed forces said to The Economist that he believes Russia may be preparing some 200,000 fresh troops, and he said he had no doubt they would try to make a move on Kyiv at some point. Another reason why lots of training and lots of preparation is needed by the Ukrainians, but they continue at this moment to just fight on the front lines, hold the lines, and prepare for whatever may be coming down the road. Anderson?
Will Ripley, appreciate it. Thank you. Perspective now from retired Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. General Hertling, you heard the report from Will. Why do you think the Russians are issuing these sorts of threats over the Patriot systems when they're intended to be used for defensive purposes?
Well, because they don't want the Patriots inside of Ukraine anytime soon, Anderson. They know that would be a capability that would counter any long-range strike capability that the Russians have. And what I'm talking about there is they have been launching multiple salvos of missiles and rockets from long-range bombers that are outside the area of operations. So they know that these Patriot systems not only have a greater altitude to strike targets in the air, but a longer range. They can not only hit incoming missiles with different types of ammunition, but they can also hit these long-range bombers. So it causes the Russians to go further out. This is all part of the defensive capability of Ukraine to continue to push the Russians back so they don't continue to strike the citizens of the country.
A spokesman for the Pentagon said today, quote, we're not going to allow comments from Russia to dictate the security assistance that we provide to Ukraine. Would you expect the Pentagon, do you expect them actually to deploy Patriots given we've discussed this a couple of times now, just the cost of the systems itself, the cost of each individual Patriot missile, millions of dollars to hit a drone that you said can cost like $20,000.
Well, they won't be hitting the drones. To answer your question first, Anderson, I'm sorry. Yes. Do I expect them to deploy some of them? Yes. Do I expect them to be on the ground and operational within weeks? No, I do not. Because I know it takes, you're not going to have Americans firing these systems inside of Ukraine or maintaining them or repairing them. They have to teach the Ukrainian soldiers to do this. And as we've talked so many times before, this is a very complex system. But these kinds of missiles won't be used against these drones. Okay. They'll be used against those longer range and higher altitude targets, which will allow Ukraine to shift some of the other low altitude, mid altitude air defense systems against the drones and the incoming rockets. So it just gives something, a new type of ammunition that the Ukrainians can use in their kit bag. And when you ask, do I expect it to be anytime soon? Anderson, we're facing a situation right now in warfare. I'm going to simplify what Will just said. Warfare is made up of constant shifting between offense and defense. Forces are either in the attack or the defense. Russia is attempting to go back on the attack. They haven't been able to do it. They've been on the defense for about 2 months while they've been hitting Ukrainian civilians with rockets. But they want to go back and regain territory for a variety of reasons. Ukraine wants to continue with their offensive, but the offensive operation takes a lot more people and a lot more logistics. So it's going to be extremely difficult for both of them to transition Ukraine into more attacks, Russia into attack to gain more ground. They're going to try and put Ukraine on their back feet by attacking in different directions.